Hello, everybody, and welcome to Walking Between Shadows. I'm Taryn Elliott, and along with me is my amazing husband.
I'm Ben Elliott.
And we're here to talk about true crime all the time.
Taryn.
Ben.
Guess what's another week of Walking Between Shadows?
Yes, it is.
And you got a new episode.
I got a new episode.
And this is one sick SOB. He was in the Navy.
Was he the Navy?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he was in the Navy.
Okay.
And so he took care of business, and then when he got out of the military, it's like he lost his whole being.
He lost his mind.
This is a new episode.
Yeah.
Case is still going on, like it hadn't fully gone through court yet, or they're in appeals now.
Well, right. It is. It's over.
Okay.
I mean, it's over. It's just, of course, it's going to go through appeals, but
Right
you'll see why after we
discuss
it.
Let's discuss it. Let's jump into it.
This is the case of Timothy Jones Jr. On August 28th of 2014, Timothy Jones found his 6-year-old son, Natan, playing with an electrical outlet in their South Carolina home. According to Jones, in an attempt to find out what Natan was doing, he punished the 6-year-old by making him do strenuous exercises before giving up and sending Natan to bed. About an hour later, Jones went to check on Natan and found him in his bed deceased. He then chose to take the lives of all 4 of the rest of the children.
So it was 5 kids total.
5 kids total. Mm-hmm. Yes. 9 days later, at a traffic routine checkpoint in Mississippi, Jones was pulled over for driving under the influence and possession of synthetic marijuana.
Is that what they call spice?
Yeah, I think it was like people smoking incense and shit.
Oh, yeah. I heard people went crazy doing that stuff.
I think it's apparent that he did after reading this right here, but so he's pulled over for those 2 things, and when the officer approached Tim's vehicle, she says she could smell the terrible odor of decomposition. So she searched the SUV and found a large bleach stain on the carpet, blood, maggots, and children's clothing.
Oh, God. And this was in Mississippi.
Right.
So he had left South Carolina. Yeah, it was pretty far down the road.
He got on down the road a little bit. Deputies ran his plate and discovered that there was a nationwide alert saying that he and his 5 children had been missing for over a week. Jones was taken into the station in Mississippi for questioning. Authorities back in South Carolina were finally able to question him. It was during this interview that to an FBI agent and a Lexington County Sheriff's deputy, Tim confessed to murdering all 5 of his kids. He explained that on August 28th, he found his 6-year-old son, Natan, playing with an outlet and caused some damage. Jones was questioning Natan about what had happened, but wasn't getting a straight answer. So he punished Natan by working him hard with physical exercise. He continued to do this for about an hour, while also, quote, cracking him on the butt with a belt a few times to get an answer. He claims that he didn't get the explanation from Natan that he wanted, so he sent him to bed. A few hours later, Jones goes to check on Natan and finds him deceased.
I questioned Natan about 4 outlets that he blew. After a series of not getting any favorable responses out of him, I tried to use more harsh measures to just try to get out of him what was going on because I didn't know what he was doing. I seen 4 destroyed outlets. Is it for me, him? Was he curious? I just didn't know what was going on, and I was trying to make sense of it. I think I worked him too hard, or maybe it was a combination of the electricity. I know electricity takes electrolytes out of your body. Something happened. It was out of the ordinary, and he wouldn't tell me. If I would have known it, I mean, I would have gotten medical help and whatnot, but I don't know what he did, and he didn't tell me. I didn't see any burn marks on his body, so that's why I didn't rush him to the hospital. So after the fact, he was deceased.
And then what happened to him? How did he get deceased? What did you do?
I sent him to bed after I worked him real hard because he wouldn't answer me.
And what do you mean by working him too hard?
I just PT'd his ass till he couldn't handle it. Tried cracking him on butt a couple times to get something out of him to tell me what was he doing.
Right.
What's his motive?
And when you're saying PT, and what are we talking about?
Squats and push-ups.
Squats, push-ups. And how long were you having him PT?
I'm PT like an hour. like I said, there's nothing out of the ordinary. Those kids would do insanity with me. We had fun doing it.
And where did he go from? You're doing this where in the house? Where you
This was in
PTing?
the living room, and then I finally got tired of it and sent him to bed.
Okay.
To bed. You're not telling me the truth. I can't help you. Go to bed, man. You're wasting everybody's time.
And then you find out what?
I come back and find out that he's deceased. And when I find out he's deceased, then the shit hits the fan and all.
How does the shit hit the fan, Tim?
The voices start going off, and then here comes the paranoia. Oh shit! What just happened? What just happened? This ain't gonna go. I can't call. Blah, blah. I got all these voices running through my head now.
And then what happens, Tim? What did you tell us earlier? So Natan was dead, and then what happened?
And I followed suit with the other 4.
He then says the voices start in his head. You can't call 911, and this kind of is where I start feeling like he starts building an insanity defense for himself.
So he was saying that it was after he had done everything that the voices started telling him he couldn't call 911.
Right.
Or was this after he found Natan and before he killed the other kids?
After he found Natan deceased from making him work out, and do these push-ups and sit-ups for an hour, and he finds him deceased, and then he says the voices kick in.
Gotcha.
You can kind of tell by listening to him that he's trying to set up an insanity defense this time. He strangled 2 of his children, 8-year-old Mira and 7-year-old Elias, with his bare hands, but said his hands were too big, so he used a belt to strangle 2-year-old Gabe and 1-year-old Elaine. He claims he did this so they would all enter heaven together, but many believe he did it out of spite so his ex-wife Amber wouldn't get custody. Tim was angry that his ex-wife left him, and even angrier that she had an affair with a 19-year-old neighbor while they were still married. Once all the children were deceased, Timothy then bagged each one of the children up in individual garbage bags and put them in the back of his Escalade, covered them with sheets, and, quote, a shit ton of air freshener. When authorities searched his internet history, they found that he spent the next few days searching countries with no extradition laws and how to dissolve a human body. Authorities also found lists that Jones had made about how he was going to dispose of the children's bodies. One note says, head to the campground, melt bodies, exclamation point, sand bones to dust or small pieces, discard by sanitation plant. Another note he had written says, day 1, burn up bodies, day 2, sand down bodies, and day 3, MB, smiley face, dissolve and discard. Investigators asked Jones about these lists, and he said he was trying to come up with ways to burn or dissolve the bodies, but he couldn't bring himself to do so.
I don't know what my original plan was. I had so many thoughts going through my mind.
What were some of them? Because you wrote some notes and you bought some
I had
supplies.
100 different thoughts about what I could do.
Okay.
I don't want to sit and incriminate myself, but
No,
I
you're fine.
had a bunch of different things. I've wanted.
We went over this, but part of your plan was to do what? The bodies.
I think originally I intended to go do all that stuff that I wrote down on the paper, but
Which
then I
was
couldn't
what?
bring myself to it. I was
Right?
gonna just try to
What was it?
do stuff to just get rid of the corpses.
Do you remember what step 1
I
was?
was gonna dissolve them or something like that. I was gonna cut them up. And
You're gonna-
I was gonna do all kinds of stuff.
Did you write down that you were going to burn the bodies?
I think I was gonna burn them. Yeah.
And you were going to, what was step 2?
Boil them, or I forget what it was. That's what I'm trying to tell you. I don't remember everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Did you write that you were going to...
I wrote stuff down that it was in the context of that time, but
All right. Was it something that you were going to cut the bodies up?
something I could bring myself to do. Yes.
I've not been able to find out what MB stands for or why there was a smiley face beside it. I don't know if that means maybe melt bodies or what the hell that meant, but it's something he had wrote down.
I'm starting to feel like it's kind of silly that he was going to claim insanity, because even an insane person wouldn't sit down and make a list up like
And
this.
I mean, really, it's very...
Bones.
What's day 3?
MB smiley face. dissolve and discard.
Okay, so your initial plan was to do these things with their bodies.
What was one of them? I told you there's other stuff. That just happened to be the one that's materialized. I had a million thoughts going through my
Okay,
mind.
let's go over this. This says what?
Head of the campground, no bodies, and send bodies to dust or small discard by a sanitation plant.
Okay, so these are some of the things that were going through your head?
That's just a small amount of stuff that was going through my head, yes.
Did you write this before or after you killed the children?
After.
Okay, Jones left the bodies of his 5 children in his Escalade for 7 days while he went to the hardware store and bought dust masks, goggles, uric acid, different kinds of saws, and he also went to the dollar store to purchase trash bags to dispose of the bodies.
This would have been the one in West Columbia?
Pull up the receipt, I don't remember.
Okay, did you buy a saw there?
Yeah. Oop.
Okay. Did you buy, let's go over this receipt here. This receipt is gonna be from Augusta Road in West Columbia.
Okay.
All right. And the date here is 9/3. So this is after, because what happened to the children was on Thursday.
What day was that?
Is that correct?
28th.
That's the 28th.
That makes sense.
Now 9/3, this is on Wednesday, so this is after the weekend. And where have them children been the whole time?
With me,
Where?
driving around in a vehicle, I think.
Where are they though?
They're with me in the car.
Okay, they're all in the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, in the middle, not back. So back implies the back where you open it.
And
I
you,
see.
told,
I
and you
see.
told me earlier you had them covered up in some sheets or blankets.
Yeah, I do blankets and a shitload of air freshener.
So you have their bodies there. You go and you purchase what? Walk me through what you're purchasing here.
I don't know what that rose.
All right. What's this?
A dust mask,
This is actually Gatorade, but
Oh.
dusk mask,
some goggles, and some hand saws,
some jab saw it says,
and a multi-saw.
multi-saw. What's this here?
Some muriatic acid,
And what's this here?
like a 5-gallon pail.
All right. Were you purchasing this stuff at that time because you initially thought you might be able to go through with this?
Partially, and then I couldn't bring myself.
You just couldn't do it. Okay. So one of the next receipts we kind of talk about is going to be several days later.
I had these thoughts in my head to try to do this, and then I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Okay. Now we go to the following day. This is going to be the 4th. This is at the Dollar General store, and we're still in Orangeburg, South Carolina. What do you purchase there that we spoke about?
Excuse me.
What's this here?
Some trash bags.
Trash bags. Why'd you buy those trash bags? To do what now? To put the bodies in.
Okay, but then to throw some of my own trash out too.
Okay.
I had a lot of stuff in the vehicle I was trying to throw out.
Now,
Oh, so this sick bastard, he switches from, goes and gets garbage bags and disposing of his kids' bodies over to how he was going to clean his truck out. Mm-hmm. And he had other garbage to get rid of, so.
Yeah, I mean, even in some of the pictures, he had clearly splashed bleach all around like the dark colored interior, and you could tell where it had just messed everything up.
Yeah. Jones then just starts driving around aimlessly buying synthetic marijuana, a certain product he calls Scooby Snacks. He finally made the decision to go to Las Vegas, and while traveling through Alabama, he dropped the bodies of his 5 kids in trash bags in a wooded area. He tells investigators how he tried to cut and dismember Natan's body, but couldn't bring himself to do it.
I guess, because in my mind, I'm just running. I have nowhere to go.
Because you didn't plan this.
I didn't plan this. No, it's just like
Spontaneous.
This is spontaneous, and I just fucked up my whole life.
okay.
One bad incident, and I'm not following through with what I should have, and
Now we spent some time really trying to figure out where where your children are at.
Yeah.
What did we kind of come up with?
Looking somewhere on Route 10 between, I think, Greenville and Camden.
Well, let's go back to
Okay.
September 5th,
Yeah.
Friday night. What did you tell us happened Friday night?
September 5th.
That was when you said your vehicle got stuck?
Yeah,
Tell us about that.
I pulled off to the side at somebody's house to try to collect myself to see where I was at.
Yeah.
And in the process of pulling back onto the road, I got stuck in a
You got
ditch.
stuck, and what happened?
The tow truck had to come out. He called a wrecker.
All right. Did you have any law enforcement contact that night?
A law enforcement just showed up on his own. He was patrolling and
Okay. Can you describe what he looked like?
probably about maybe 5'10", shaved hair, Caucasian male.
Okay.
When you have contact with this officer, where are your children?
In the car.
Okay, they're dead in the car.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and they're still where you set them.
Yes, sir.
What's going on in that car since they've been sitting for so long? I mean, you kill them on Thursday.
No, they weren't sitting there. Some of the time I took a couple days and just stayed home.
Okay. Did you leave them in the vehicle?
Or were they in the house at that time?
I think they were in the vehicle and I was just sitting there.
Not what you think. We want to know
No, I
what
mean,
the
I
truth
believe
is.
I believe that they were in the vehicle.
But you're
and I was-
talking about the weekend it happened.
Yes, and I was just sitting there thinking, oh, what am I going to do?
Okay. Well,
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes sense.
Does this tie this together? Because that's what I'm trying to tell you what I know.
sure.
Yeah,
So
Tim.
all I'm saying from that Thursday, though, the 28th, and you say after all this happens, you place their bodies in the vehicle.
Yes.
Between then and the time you come in contact with the officer, and that would be Friday on September 5th. So we have over a week's time that has passed by. Your children are still in the vehicle. Is that correct?
What date?
Friday, when you have contact
Yeah,
with
so
the
the
law.
next Saturday was, yeah.
Okay, so they're in the vehicle the whole time. What's kind of happening in the vehicle? As far as how does it smell in there?
Stinks like shit.
What's happening with the children? You were telling me before.
But the blood was probably just coming out of their bodies because I just left them in there. And I believe that, well, as far as I know, I think when your body dies, blood and water separate. I think that's...
Now, we had asked, because you purchased the saws and everything, had you used any of the saws on your children?
I think I tried to start on the time and I couldn't bring myself to do it.
Okay. And we'll get to where that happens. Had you tried with any of the other children?
Mm-mm.
No?
He was kind of the whole center of this thing.
Mm-hmm. He's what kind of started this all.
He triggered us all.
If he would have told you what happened to the outlets that night,
I would have went and acted appropriately to try to help him.
none of this would have happened.
I think he didn't tell me because I think it was intended for me. I think that's why it would make sense
Okay.
for him not to tell me.
So let me ask you, so you have contact with the law enforcement officer Friday night. The children are still in this vehicle. That would have been on the 5th.
The 5th, yes.
Saturday's when you get picked up here.
The 6th.
That's going to be the 6th. That's Saturday. But that Saturday morning, we look at this receipt. And this is where?
The Greenville, Alabama.
Greenville, Alabama. And what, do you remember what you buy there?
10 packs of cigarettes and some Zuzus and Wham Whams.
Okay. And I just see groceries, so I don't know what you purchased there.
Yeah, candy bars.
And if the time on the receipt is correct, it's telling us 8:18 in the morning.
Yep.
Your children, they're still in the vehicle with you. You're positive about that on Saturday.
Not the whole day, yeah.
Okay, at that time though.
Yeah.
Okay, so you go from Greenville, Alabama, and then the next receipt we have is Camden, Alabama. And what do you do in Camden?
I pulled some money out. I was intending to go to Vegas.
Okay. And you take out $500?
$500.
All right. Now, that time is at 1:06 p.m. At that point, were the children in your
I
vehicle?
don't believe they were. I think that they were gone.
You already disposed of them?
Pretty sure.
Okay,
All right.
so,
With that in mind, can you describe to me what you were telling me earlier about where you disposed of your children at?
They're in some wooded road, log truck looking thing off on the side in bags.
Was it a 2-lane road that this was off of?
think so, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. You said it was a heavily wooded area?
It was heavily wooded. It looked like if you went up in the area where I did, it was either like some of the trees got knocked out of the way, like people potentially either starting to clear it, or maybe somebody came through there and was bulldozing up ATV path or something. I don't know. It wasn't something that was incorporated. That's kind of what I was. It was unincorporated.
Unincorporated.
Your children, you do what once you get to this location?
Put them in bags and put them off to the side.
Okay. Tell us about Natan. Does this happen there? Or did this happen in a separate place where you?
Well, you said you started to cut them.
You started.
This happened there.
Where did it happen? In the vehicle? Outside of the vehicle?
Outside the vehicle.
And what do you do?
I began to try to saw a leg, and I couldn't bring myself to finish it. So, I can't do that.
How far did you get?
Maybe about that far, and I was like, I can't do that. I can't do that to him.
He only made it to Mississippi before he was pulled over at a routine traffic checkpoint and arrested. So everything that this sick fuck has done up to this point was trying to minimize his responsibility and actions in the murders of his own kids.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least buy himself some time.
Well, we know he had made the decision to go to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Because he'd even stopped at another town in Mississippi and withdrew money from his bank account.
He did. And he'd gotten rid of the bodies, and he didn't stop, until he was made to.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of believe his ultimate goal was to get the least amount of punishment as he could get for everything he'd done. The insanity defense becomes his next act to evade punishment.
Okay. So what do you do then? Do you try to hide the bags at all?
I just put them off to the side. I knew there was no hiding bags. There ain't no hiding this. I'm gonna get caught. This is just a matter of time. I'm buying myself time. I'm gonna get caught.
So you don't try to hide the, in other words, you don't cover the bags up, but you go back to your vehicle, and from your vehicle,
I just drove aimlessly.
And then I say aimlessly. I was in an aimless path toward Las Vegas. That's why I was doing this, and that explained me going around the major cities. All right.
And it explains my line of travel, maybe.
Until you get here in Smith County.
And then I didn't intend to get and then that's when everything blows up in my face.
Now you were telling us that was actually in the car. It was not spice, but they are called.
This is Scooby Snacks.
Okay.
You said locally in Lexington County, you bought those from where?
Time Warp.
Time Warp.
And what do they kind of do for you?
They calm the voices down inside my head to let me be at peace and not act on them.
They kind of give you the same high as what drug? I think you're talking about
It's like marijuana in the sense that it gives you a high, but it's not the high that I'm looking for. It's the effect of quieting this. It's medication. I know that sounds stupid as heck, but
not at all.
That's why I need to see a doctor.
Okay.
Throughout the interrogation, Jones also mentioned several times that he believed Natan was out to get him somehow. At the end of the interrogation, they asked Jones a series of basic questions. Some of the questions are to cover the investigator in case Jones decides to no longer cooperate. Like, did we force you to say anything? Did we force you to cooperate? Things like that.
Now, he claims Natan was out to get him. How old was Natan?
6.
I know at 6 years old he's plotting. Yeah.
He was such a cute little thing.
Yeah, he was a cute kid.
They all were.
Yep.
It's terrible. Yeah, so other questions are most likely used by psychologists to evaluate the subject's mental state, like, how did you feel about your kids? And would you have done this in front of an officer?
Where is that?
Smith County.
Smith County. You know who you are.
Tim Jones.
Tim Jones. What's your date of birth, Tim?
12/28/1.
You know why we've been talking to you.
Trying to find out what happened to my kids.
Okay. You understand that you've just confessed to a crime?
Yes.
You understand that your confession will be used against you in
Yes.
court? Did you confess voluntarily?
Yes.
Did anyone threaten you if you didn't confess?
No.
Can you speak a little louder?
No.
No? What do you think will happen to you as a result of confessing to a crime?
I have no clue.
No clue? Okay, fair enough. Why did you decide to confess?
I didn't do the right thing.
To do the right thing? That's exactly what you told me earlier. Do you feel guilty about the crime which you just confessed to?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. If so, why?
I felt that I took measures that were extreme, not necessary because of fear. I fear my life because of kids.
Okay. Did you do the crime on purpose?
Natan was an accident.
He was an accident.
That was really an accident. I was just trying to find out what was going on. If you look at that picture of me holding my little son, yeah, it's just a picture of me with the older one trying to say, son, what's going on? Mm-hmm. And he wouldn't tell me, and I don't know if he was messing with the stuff, and so the PT took him over the edge.
Natan was an accident, but you murdered the other 4 children.
Yes.
Okay. Why did you do that? We talked about this earlier.
The voices started kicking and said, you better do something. You're fucked now, Tim.
Okay. What were you trying to accomplish by doing this crime?
Just trying to flee because I knew my time was short. I was going to get in trouble anyway. I'm not good at being bad. I'm not a good criminal.
When did you decide to do this?
After Natan had been gone, I started listening to what was going on in my head and I carried it out. I didn't carry out everything because if I did, I would have carried out what was on those papers. That's the stuff that comes out of my head.
What did you think about your children, just in general?
I think that they were going to have issues like me.
Issues like you? Okay.
I think that they were going to have issues from not only from a broken home. I think that there's genetic diseases that I think that there was some things that my dad, if you guys had seen yesterday, he doesn't know about my mom.
Yeah.
I think that there's things I know about my mom, even though I wasn't around when that happened, because I think I've got some of what she has.
What kind of people do you think the children were when you committed the crime? I understand this is a weird question for what we're talking about, but we had to ask it earlier too.
I think they were conspiring.
Think they were conspiring against you?
It seems to make the most sense to me. I mean, why else would somebody go do something like that and not tell me what he's doing?
Do you understand that you've just... sorry, I'm getting behind myself. When you did this, did you think your actions could hurt the children?
Yes.
Yes? So you knew that what you were doing to the children was going to...
I knew that what I was
going to harm them or take their lives.
It was to protect myself.
Okay.
I know that sounds fucking pathetic.
Now, when you did this crime, did you know it was wrong?
At the time, I didn't think any of it was wrong. It happened and just... I'm happenstance and... Let me finish it up now.
Okay. When you did the crime, did you know it was against the law?
At the time, I didn't think about the law, so I'm going to say no.
Okay.
The law didn't come into my mind. I wasn't caring about the law. Dealing with dead children in my hands. Fuck the law. I'm in trouble, man. My kids are dead.
Yeah. Did you think you might get caught?
No, you're fine.
I knew I was going to get caught. I'm not a good criminal. It was a matter of time.
I gotcha. Why did you think that? Just because you weren't a good criminal?
I'm not a good... Grandma's told me something that's the truth. Tim, you ain't... I told it to my kids, too. You guys ain't good being bad, so be good.
What did you do to protect yourself from getting caught?
Drive and try to disguise the bags. And then get rid of the stuff at the house.
What all did you get rid of at the house?
Everything. I gave the name...
You're just saying your general possessions.
Yeah, I just didn't think about keeping my stuff anymore. Well, hell with it.
Yeah.
I gave all my stuff away. I mean, my life's over. That's what I thought about it.
Have there been times you wanted to do something like this but decided against it?
I mean, I've had these thoughts, but none of this happened until this actually materialized. That's what I'm trying to tell you guys.
Okay, why didn't you do that in the past if you've had these thoughts before?
Why didn't I?
Yes.
I didn't have any reason to act on them.
No reason to act on them? Okay. Would you have done this if a uniformed officer had been standing next to you?
Yes.
Even
I wouldn't have cared, no, man, because...
elbow to elbow with you, you would have still
I wouldn't
done
have
this.
cared, yeah. And here's why. At that point in time, I didn't care because I saw myself as a damn target. And I saw him as having a gun in his hand, if you will. I know he was a kid, but that's how I saw it. Like, shit, he's
Now,
out to get me.
when you say him, you're talking about
Natan.
And how?
It seems like he was blaming Natan out of anger due to his paranoia. The bodies were badly decomposed when they were found, so the autopsies were inconclusive. It's just as possible that he argued with Natan, and that led to Jones losing control and beating or strangling Natan, and him not passing away from exhaustion from the physical exertions. This theory would explain why he killed the rest of his children instead of calling 911 after finding Natan deceased. At the end of the interrogation, investigators have to ask Jones if he is suicidal. And he says, "I'm not suicidal. If I was going to do it, I would already have done it. I'm not going to take my own life. If I kill myself, I'll go to hell.
If I was gonna do it, it would have already happened. No, man, I'm not willing to take that. I'll do a lot of stuff, but
Because you said your religious beliefs.
taking my life is not one of them.
Because what happens? You say if you kill yourself,
If you kill yourself, well, maybe nothing does happen, and maybe, Lord, I love you. Maybe God's a myth, and we die and we go to the ground. But if He's not, and it's real, well, if it does what it says, hell's not a very fun place. I don't think it plans on freezing over anytime soon. I don't want to go there.
His religious beliefs, he could ask for forgiveness for murdering his 5 kids. He has time to ask for forgiveness from God. But if he kills himself, he couldn't ask for forgiveness, and he'd be doomed to hell. And he don't want to go there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he couldn't say, please forgive me for what I'm about to do.
I don't know.
Well,
Jones did everything he could to save his own life.
mm-hmm.
So why did he have custody of his kids?
A very strong relationship. I think we found a lot in common. I wasn't speaking to my family at the time, and I'm not sure if he was really speaking to his at the time when we first met. And we just kind of latched onto each other. Later on, any little thing would kind of spark an argument, and our relationship became volatile, not just on Tim's side, on mine as well. It got aggressive at times, violent. But we managed to stick through it because we had the children.
Amber claims that when she left Jones, he shut off the power and she was unable to care for her children. So she made him the primary caretaker because that's what she thought was best for her kids. She still had her rights involving the children, but Jones was the primary caregiver. She said Jones was a good father, and since he had a good paying job, the kids would be better off with him full time.
Me and turned my power off and stuff. And I found it really hard because I just had nothing to offer my children. I could not provide for them. I think as a mother, I was making the best choice that I could. I trusted my husband at the time because he gave me no reason not to with my children. He was a good father while we were married. He promised to take care of them.
It wasn't until asked did Amber admit to the abuse she faced while married to Jones.
Some of the violence. There was an incident here in Lexington County. I believe that you actually reported to the police.
Would it be the 18-wheeler?
Can you tell us about that?
Tim and I were leaving Walmart, and we had gotten into an argument, and he said, hey, let's just play chicken then, in a more stern, argumentative tone. And I said, Tim, it's not funny. It's not effing funny. It's not effing funny. We had the kids in the back seat. So an 18-wheeler was coming this way, and Tim steered the car where the 18-wheeler would hit me directly. And as we were driving toward the 18-wheeler, it wasn't much of a distance at all, and Tim jerked the car that way and just started laughing about it like it was funny. And I know he remembers that one. I did report that. It scared me. My children were in the car. Had that 18-wheeler hit, it would have killed everybody in the car.
Is that the only incident that happened during the marriage?
No.
Were there times he laid hands on you physically?
Yes.
And you have since informed law enforcement about those times as well, correct?
I did. One incident in particular, we were arguing. I can't remember what it was about. But Tim grabbed me by the side of my head and headbutted me to the point where I just blanked out. And when I got up, it was just kind of what just happened. but I could feel my head kind of jar, my brain jar in my skull. And shortly after that, he threw a phone at my face and broke my back teeth out.
How much of that did the children witness?
You know, I'd like to say none of it. My daughter, my oldest two, probably witnessed the most. Mira witnessed a lot of Tim spitting in my face. I was always a whore, spitting in my face. And I'm not talking just, I'm talking like hawking loogies and spitting them in my face. He would take me by the side of my hair and smack my head as hard as he could off the car window. Or while I was pregnant and we would be arguing in the car, he would stomp the brake to where the belt would just tighten around my stomach. The verbal abuse was always that he would chop me up and feed me to the pigs. Because pigs will eat everything on me but my teeth, and I'll never be found.
Jones played chicken on the highway with the 18-wheeler while his entire family was in the vehicle. He once headbutted Amber until she blacked out. He threw a phone at her face and broke her teeth out. He seems like a very violent person, so why did Amber trust him to have the kids? Amber claims that Jones' rage was always directed at her and not towards her children. Generally, victims in abusive relationships form a low self-esteem. Amber saw herself as not good enough for the kids. She felt like her presence was making Jones angry, and if she left, it would resolve Jones' anger issues. She soon realizes that Jones is just an angry bastard, and once she was gone, he directed that anger towards the kids. At the end of Amber's testimony, the prosecution reinforced their claim that Jones didn't want the mother to have custody of these kids. Tim Jones pled guilty by reason of insanity, but the jury didn't buy it. It's one thing to have a mental illness. It's a totally different ballgame to be insane. Do you think that he was sick in the head? Do you think he was mentally ill?
No. I think he was a narcissist pig.
Yeah. Which, I mean, a lot of people think that's a mental illness.
Mm.
You know? It's unfortunate because you can never get a narcissist to admit that they've ever done anything wrong. And it doesn't seem like he did either.
Right.
It's the voices in his head that did this. And he had been diagnosed or had through the military, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he had never been diagnosed through it, anybody outside of that. I do believe he knew the difference between right and wrong. So, no, he wasn't insane. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was making lists and checking them twice.
Mm-hmm.
The jury found Jones guilty on all counts. Plus, due to special circumstances, they sentenced him to death. So he was supposed to be sentenced November 30th of 2019, or he was supposed to, that was his death date. But the defense already appealed, so this could go on in appeals court for...
So it's still in limbo and in appeals?
Right.
He has not been executed?
Not been executed yet. And I think they've even talked about doing like a firing squad on him. That had been talked about at one time.
And you know, I don't know if this is absolutely true, but I kind of think there's some states that allow people that get sentenced to death to choose their form of death.
Yeah, there are.
And they can pick firing squad or gas chamber or whatever. I don't know exactly what that is, but...
Well, if I could pick for this son of a bitch, I think they should just choke him out and put him in a bag.
See, I've always contended that people like that ought to die by the means the people that they killed died.
Right, that's what he did.
Yeah.
And it's just disgusting. I mean, to ride around for days on end with your babies decomposing in your vehicle. He got caught in a ditch at one point, and an officer came across him then. I think it was the night before he disposed of the bodies. He had to be pulled out of the ditch by a tow truck.
Mm-hmm. And they were in that vehicle.
Yeah, they were still in it.
Mm-hmm.
We'll follow it and see if he ever goes through with the execution. I mean, he might be right there with Krista Pike and just riding that appeal train until God knows when.
It's interesting just how sick some people can be in this world. and he seems to be right up at the top. Do you have any updates or anything for us?
I don't. So, like I said, this was to go through. He was sentenced to death in 2019. That was right before COVID, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So everything's kind of getting out there. I heard about this story a while back, but I haven't seen a lot of coverage on it, and it's pretty gruesome, and it's not for
the faint of heart.
No, it's not.
Well, thank you, baby. That's very interesting.
Thank you.
And I look forward to our next episode next week on Walking Between Shadows.
As do I.
As long as I'm with you, it's going to be a good one.
It's going to be good, babe.
All right, we'll see ya.
See ya.
As to indictment 2015 GS 320188, 0189, 0190, 0191, 0195, the state versus Timothy Ray Jones Jr. We, the jury, unanimously agree on the existence of an aggravating circumstance. 2 or more persons were murdered by the defendant by act or pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct in the murder of a small child under the age of 11 or younger, and it is so signed by the foreperson. We, the jury, in the above entitled case, have found beyond a reasonable doubt the existence of the following statutory aggravating circumstances, to wit, 2 or more persons were murdered by the defendant by act or pursuant to one scheme or course of conduct, and the murder of 5 children 11 years of age or younger. Now recommend to the court that the defendant, Timothy R. Jones, Jr., be sentenced to death.
This has been Walking Between Shadows. Again, I'm your host, Ben Elliott, and my wife, Taryn Elliott. Look for our next episodes coming soon, and don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button.